Good evening, everyone. So the message is from the book Our Daily Bread by Chico Xavier, psychographed from the Spirit Emmanuel, and message 109, Three Musts. Thus I say to you, ask and it shall be given to you, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened to you. Jesus in Luke chapter 11, paragraph 9. Ask, seek, knock. These three musts recommended by Jesus were not spoken without special meaning. In the tangle of the struggles and debts of the earthly experience, it is crucial for people to learn to ask for a pathway to freedom from the old chains of suffocating conventions, sterile prejudices, empty devotions, and unbreakable habits. It is necessary to vehemently and decisively desire to get out of the dark thicket in which most individuals have lost sight of the eternal interests. Immediately thereafter, it is imperative to seek. Seeking consists of selective effort. The field is loaded with inferior attractions, some of which are adorned with luring appeal. It is crucial to find the worthy and sanctifying way to act. Many run after dangerous mirages, like moths fascinated with the light of the fire. They come from far away, get too close to the flame, and consume the blessing of their body. It is imperative to learn to seek what is truly good. Once the spiritually constructive path is established, the time comes to knock on the door of spiritual growth. Without the mallet of methodical effort and without the chisel of goodwill, it is extremely difficult to sculpt the resources of the corporeal life into luminous works of divine art meant for spiritual happiness and eternal love. It is not enough, therefore, to pray without direction, to seek without examination, and to act without a lofty objective. Let us ask the Lord to free us from primitive animality. Let us seek the realm of sublime spirituality and work for our place within it in order to make ourselves faithful instruments of the divine will. Ask, seek, knock. This trilogy of Jesus holds a special meaning for students of the gospel in every era. Wow. Sorry.
So let us all now prepare ourselves to connect with the good spirits and the mentors that are responsible for this study session. Let us pray together. Dear Mother, Father God, loving mentors, Master Jesus, thank you for bringing this opportunity for us to learn and to grow, to progress in this reincarnation. We feel the joy in our hearts to be among friends, studying new chapters, new teachings, and we feel the presence of the loving doctors conducting this study session. And as we come here tonight to learn more, we ask that these loving spirits can inspire us and help us to clearly understand the message of the Christ. And these little seeds can permeate our hearts and transform ourselves and transform this reincarnation and give us the strength and the courage to continue to co-create with the Christ as we come together to learn and acquire more tools to progress. And with the permission of the mentors of Master Jesus, we would like to open the study session of tonight. And so be it.
Okay. So we began last week with the preface in chapter 1 of the book Life and Sex. And so interesting. Hopefully we've meditated on so many things, right? So as we know, the format is a little different. For those who are over the internet, feel free to Luciana can keep an eye, because like if you make a comment or have a question, and here as well, so we can study together. The book is not published yet in English, but it's already translated, and little by little, in this study, the magazine and more, we're going to be able to release it. So the book has 26 chapters. So interesting. Usually all these books are like 30, and like the Living Spring collections like 180. It's like for 6 months, reading every day. And non-solar is like 50, and then suddenly 26. I don't know why, but certainly nothing's missing. But we're asking, like, okay, it's a very precise book. They didn't try to make it up or say, let's round it up. No, there's no more or less. It's precisely what is needed. And the title, as we say, Life and Sex. Life is bigger than sex, though many people reverse it. And it's a challenge. As we said, God created it. The whole 9 yards. Us, and the pleasure of eating, the pleasure of exercising, the pleasure of the bonds of friendship, sexual pleasure. So it's God's creation, but we are asked to co-create. That's where we enter, our co-creation.
Also working. Pleasure of working.
The working, hopefully, humanity is not there yet. Majority of people are like, I don't want to work. But for those who understand, they know it's wonderful. But, so what are we to co-create? And it's important to tell our children, teens, that they are co-creating. But it's about power too. It's about power, how you feel, like when you're with people, affection. So it's about learning to discipline ourselves. So chapter 1 was the definition of sex in general. It's going to come back. But then immediately, it's so interesting, Emmanuel, not by chance, he's an educator, he brings chapter 2, family. And you're like, really? I mean, we have to talk about family now? So he defines sex and he goes straight to family. And then the next chapters, he's going to talk about dating, etc. But he begins with family. So from sex to family. So let's see the journey of this chapter. There are many elements. And he says in this chapter, Okay, we got it. He quotes item 8 of chapter 14 of the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism. It talks about family ties. And there are 2 types of family. Family of blood ties, here, and spiritual ones. And he says, Kardec, the one we have here passes. How do we turn this blood tie into spiritual tie? Because spiritual tie is more important. So when you have a friend that you feel that that friend is more important than a family member, you may not be wrong, because there is spiritual tie there. And that's beautiful, as long as that friendship is making us grow. Because when that friendship is taking us away from our blood ties and from our deeds, then that friendship is just of affinity, but not necessarily yet spiritual family. So they explain that our bonds don't run away. So the parents we had from previous lives, the relatives, we're still connected to them. Some are reincarnated with us, we're back. Others are still in the spiritual realm. Some are cheering for us, helping us, and are more evolved than us. Others not necessarily, though they may like us. So what is the goal of family? Good question. We want to know. Why does he go from sex to family? Well, it's almost intuitive at first, but it doesn't summarize in what we think. So, strikingly, in the first sentence, Emmanuel says, we're going to read the sentence as is and then break down. He says, of all associations which exist on earth, with the exception, of course, of humanity, perhaps none more important in its educational regenerative function than the constitution of family. Nobody tells us that. Or some people say, but nowadays, who cares, right? Nobody teaches our children anymore. Family is important. Family is important. Now we have a discourse that the individual is important. Whatever you like is important, not family. We were raised in families that were very gregarious, but we very likely were taught that more important than family is you. Right or wrong? You are more important than family. But that's the way we've been taught. And that's where we raise kids, telling them, what do you want? What do you want? No. We need to train them to think of the general good first. Or we're training selfish monsters. And that's what we're seeing in society nowadays. Monsters of selfishness.
I don't get what I want. I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to relationships, when they grow older, they say, I like you. I'm going to date you. And then next day they know somebody else. They say, I think we better be friends. And they break people's hearts without noticing, because nobody taught them that they are not above the general good, which should have started in the family. So for us, it begins with a daily question for our children. What you're doing, is it helping the family? By doing what you're doing, is it helping the family? Oh, but they're children. They're not supposed to think of the family. No, they are. If we don't train them from the get-go, when they become teens, they will be monsters of selfishness. And they don't care what their family members feel or do. They won't care either for people in the streets because they don't care for the people who are under their very roof. They don't think about their parents. They don't think, and we're talking about our society nowadays. Right? But the most important part is here. So family is more important for what? For what? What is that for? Education and regeneration. Now we need to talk about it. What is this education? It's like degrees. What is it?
It's educating the spirit, acquiring moral values that are eternal.
Acquiring new habits, Kardec says, right? In the Spirit's book. When Kardec is talking about the law of work in the Spirit's book, third part of the Spirit's book, it's a law. Work is a divine law. It's not like a job. It's like being useful. So when our children, our teens, everybody's like, I don't want to do anything. Not us, spiritists. I have to find something, even if it's a book to read, but be useful. Do nothing means against the divine law. Be useful. Useful in any way you want. Washing the dishes, cleaning here, helping there, not creating problems. That's very useful, right? When we can just be peaceful and quiet, learning to be peacemakers. And Kardec, when he brings his comment there, he says, we won't change society until we understand that we need to educate ourselves. We need to acquire new habits. So all of us here, we were born to acquire new habits. From when we were born to death, if we end this life and we didn't create new habits, we failed in this reincarnation. So when people say, this is who I am, no, so then you better change. Because this thing is not working. That's why you reincarnated, to change that. Because some people claim like, I am like this. No.
Too old to change.
Or I'm too old to change. But we better change. So that's one. And the second, he ties it, education with regeneration. So what's regeneration? The word says, to generate anew, meaning whatever happened to us that was degenerated, we're being asked to transform. So if I am born with sexual addiction, this life, I better fix it. It's one of the most difficult addictions to overcome. Sexual addiction. The experts in the field of psychiatry, because it's a psychiatry level thing, they say it's very hard to change. There are no drugs. Unlike depression, anxiety, panic, schizophrenia, there are no drugs. If somebody is addicted to sex, there are no drugs. To say, okay, let's take this drug and tame it. There's nothing. And our society is still it's a fine line when people identify it, because we can do so many things, right? we are not a very monogamous society.
You think because they don't think it's important to cure that, that's why they don't find a medication, or because the society think it's cool or nice to be, like sex.
Yeah, there's a cult to sex.
Yeah.
If you talk, I'll never forget this. There is a program on Netflix that is very interesting to watch. Somebody Phil Rosenthal, very interesting guy, nothing to do with sex. He was the one who wrote the famous show in the past named Everybody Loves Raymond, which was so interesting. Like 20 years ago. Only 20 years ago. It was like everybody loved it. And now he's doing this show, which is interesting. He travels places, he shows how people eat. It's very interesting. He's a wonderful guy, family guy. But in one of the interviews with him, he said, if this program were to be released today, it wouldn't hit. Because now they want things that are spicy, sexy, sexual, sensual. In 20 years, many things changed.
Well, you're talking about Everybody Loves Raymond movie that was released today.
Excuse me? Yeah, Everybody Loves Raymond. Yeah. If he were to release it today, he wouldn't be successful because people want things that are spicy and sexual and sensual. It's in the air.
Violence.
And
They
violence.
love it. Violence.
And violence. Yeah. Even cartoons. So we are living at a time when we need to deal with it. So it's good that it's surfacing. It's good and bad, right? Because it requires more work. But now we have to face it. Either we face it and fix it and educate ourselves, or we'll linger. So that's one of the things we need to regenerate. Think about it. When these scholars in Brazil, Sally and Anna, said, we are barely a monogamous society, it's true. Barely. We are not monogamous beings yet. Should we feel guilty? So we talked about it last week. This is not for us to feel guilty, but to bring to consciousness and start disciplining ourselves, educating ourselves, and say, yeah, I probably would like to go back to previous lives when I didn't care about family. I wanted just to have this partner, just like Pontius Pilate. Have somebody there, but then his life was like 10,000 partners. But that doesn't work anymore. And God is so good that he made the consequences be felt in this life. Sexually transmitted diseases are real. Right? And mental imbalances that happen, psychiatric disorders due to this imbalance. So we have in our families an opportunity to, where do we start trimming this down? At the family. That's where we educate ourselves. And that's why there is a push to destroy families nowadays. In two realms. Even psychologists will come to people and say, yeah, I remember my father. Man, my father is in the spiritual realm. But I remember when we were teens. And then my father started doing his therapy. And then this psychologist, who was a woman, she said, yeah, if you have a problem, you need an affair. Poor father.
More problems.
5 children. A wife, and then he needed an affair. Oh my Lord. So it's like, this psychology is not helping, creating more mess. Thank God my father didn't listen to her. But imagine, how can that make life any easier? Some people think they're going to be happier if they jump the fence, right? If they explore. And then you go home, you don't feel it. So family is where we begin, and it begins with our children. So let's go more, deeper. Emmanuel brings more. And then he says, of similar association in which two beings are conjugated, attending to the bonds of affection, the home appears guaranteeing the foundations of civilization. We didn't want to rephrase it. This is not the final translation, but it's pretty close to the Portuguese version. But what does it say? The foundation of family begins with the bonds of affection between two people. Of course, true. Bonds of affection. And he says, in that affection, we have the foundation for civilization. But what is this civilization here? Spiritism doesn't mean civilization, buildings, flying cars, and going to the moon and to Mars and Jupiter. No. In the Spirit's book, they say on Earth we're not civilized yet because we're still not evolved morally on Earth. So when he says civilization, he means to be civil means to be human. And humans are to tame their emotions and not to be like barbarians, kicking and screaming and being aggressive. So bonds of affection, foundation for a family that will be the foundation for this moral growth. So then we look at each other in the family and we say, man, we are here for more than just us. It can't be just us, because if it's just us, it's not civilization. Because family is not marriage. It begins with this marriage, but that's not family. Oh, we are family. No, we are not. If we don't have children, we're not family. We're not. Yet. And then if we're not family yet, we're not stepping into this foundation of civilization. We're still selfish, which is not civilization. Not at the Spiritist concept. Because nowadays there is a trend, people getting married, and I'm watching these programs like Indian matchmaking, Married at First Sight, and the new season. So interesting to see this new generation, 30ish, 40ish, and how they think. Like, oh, no. And they want to have a spouse. And they say, when do you want children? Not now, right? We want to spend years traveling. And so then what is that for? Just to have somebody at home? Then when does Spiritism say that it's valid to be together and only us? When you together help humanity. And that doesn't mean paying taxes. Because paying taxes is an obligation. Because some people say, oh, but I'm fulfilling my duties. But you're selfish. You have all your earnings for yourself. Helping our previous family is obligation. It's not charity. When a couple decides not to have children, they are helping with this foundation for civilization when they dedicate their lives for others. which is rare. But I know a couple, for example. Some of you know Wagner Moura, who opened the Fraternity Without Borders. He got married, has his children, and both him and his young wife, they take the lead of all this movement around the world. They had their baby, and their baby came with them to Africa, and they keep helping people there. That was what we're talking about. But he had other children too, but still they're helping other kids, other people, in many ways. But if we insist on being just us, what are we attracting? Talking about associations, mental associations. What kinds of spirits will be with us in our homes? Happy spirits?
Myself.
Yeah. And what do selfish spirits want to do near us? They want to help us? No. They want to suck our energies. They want us to do things that are beneficial to them in their addictions, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's go deeper. Of course, Emmanuel next says, once that's happening, through the couple, establish their works or functions the principle of reincarnation according to the divine laws, enabling the executive work of the highest programs of action in the spirit world. Through the couple. He didn't say married, he just said the couple. So if people got together and somebody got pregnant, remember, there are higher spirits using that to bring somebody to reincarnate, which is a law of life. It's a divine law. So no pregnancy whatsoever is a mistake. Oh, but I'm so young. He's so young. It doesn't matter. It's divine. There is a law of God named law of reproduction. And that's what he's saying. But look at this. He says the highest programs of action in the spiritual realm, meaning through the couple, God is working in one of the highest works. So if we want to be missionaries, educate a child. If not one that you brought in biologically, somebody who's connected to us spiritually, but was brought in by one reason or another through somebody else. Educate a child, and you will be side by side with God, co-creating in harmony. John.
I think of the story that I think we all know about Chico being late for work at the train station. A little child there. Emmanuel tells him that he better pay attention to the child. And he does. And he gets rewarded for it. But it's so easy. You run in, and we're on the street, we're shopping, walking, and there's a mother with a child, and if you take the time to talk to that child, you are doing what you're talking about, because you're acknowledging that child, and you say something to the child. It doesn't matter what it is, just a hello, how you doing, but you recognize that child, and I think that's a way that, one of the simplest ways that we have to do that.
And there are ways. If you can't have children, there are foster care, there is adoption. But doing nothing means failing at reincarnation, unless we have missionary works, which missionary doesn't mean coming to the center or to a church once a week. No, we're talking about Divaldo Franco's work. Chico Xavier's work. These works like Mother Teresa's work. She didn't have her own kids, but she helped everybody else's children and more. Right? So helping even parents who have children is missionary. You don't need to bring that child to your home as long as you commit to help parents who have their own children, making their lives easier, making those children's lives more meaningful. How many parents have to work and the children are elsewhere? So creating that consciousness can be of synchronicity with this highest program that is brought by the spiritual realm in the name of God. So we're talking about divine things. There's nothing more divine than co-creating with God. Imagine a child developing and you're there participating. This is such an honor for us. There's nothing on earth that will be comparable to that. And when we discarnate, nobody's going to say, who do you work with? Oh, I work for the President of the United States. That doesn't mean anything. Oh, but I helped that kid. Oh, then. And that's exactly what Emmanuel is going to say. He's going to say, through paternity and maternity, man and woman acquire more extensive credits of the higher life. That doesn't mean making children and letting people. We're talking about being a parent, being present, being, nowadays, we're talking about not only children, but being a parent throughout our lives. We see many people who are older and are washing their hands, and they don't want to partake in the education of their grandchildren. Oh, I already raised my kids.
You just brought up the one that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Somebody in the neighborhood was commenting about how they had grandchildren. For a number of years, they lived with them and had the opportunity to raise that one or two children with them. And they think back on it, what a privilege it was.
Yeah.
It was such a joy.
They missed the opportunity. If we go to the book Sex and Destiny by Andrea Lewis, we learn that, what is her name again? Marcia. Thank you, Marcia.
A lot of hymns in there.
Yes, a lot of names. Marcia becomes a grandmother. One of her grandchildren is a daughter she adopted, but died and came back as a granddaughter. She has no idea. And the grandson that she meets is a former lover from a previous life who owes a great deal to her, but is more evolved than her now. Read the book or reread it. It's fascinating. And she has no idea that those grandchildren are so important in her life. And that's the case of majority of people on earth. They don't know what's happening. And usually we escape our very affective duties. Because we're very selfish. We think children are selfish. Adults are no different. Children have a reason to be. Because they have to survive. I'm not saying, yeah, be selfish. But we understand why they say, I'm hungry, I'm this, because they need parents and adults to care for them, reminding them, like, I need something, because if you don't cry, People don't attend to your needs. So they have to be like this. But if we don't help them understand little by little that it's not only about them, but everyone else, then when they become adults, we will be monsters of selfishness, like many grandparents who look at their children and don't see the point of that relationship. They don't understand that in that relationship of a few years sometimes not going to be like 20, 30 years, maybe just 5 years or 1 year. They are going to recap an unfinished business from a previous life. So we have credits if we really focus on parenting. And parenthood is a joy. He says, hence the source of joy that bursts from their being with the tasks of procreation. That's why many people get excited, right? Oh, and I have a baby, oh my gosh. It's God's touch. It's hard work, but it brings so much joy, right? When we see our children, see them growing, progressing, overcoming challenges. And hopefully when we see other people's children as well, we rejoice in seeing their development. It's God's creation. He rewards us. And it's not by chance. But he goes more. He says, children are bonds of conscious love that give them greater protection of the greater world, since we're all integrated into groups of affinity. Now he's going to talk about how children are protected spiritually. He's going to say that superior spirits, they are protecting and guiding the children in their reincarnation for the purpose of their progress and refinement. Good for us, parents and grandparents, because we have coaches that know exactly what we need to do with them. How often, I was telling Fabio the other day, said, we go to sleep thinking, I'm failing, like, oh my gosh, how do I change that in this child? How do I? And then I pray, oh dear superior spirits, where are you? Give me a sign, you're close. May I sleep and I wake up with some ideas on how to educate this in this child. How to refine the spirit. Like when a child has 2 bottled waters and a friend has none. And you say, come on, give them one. And they're like, but, and they say, but, they're mine. And you say, come on, give them one. And then you go to sleep thinking, oh my gosh, how do I help this child be less selfish and attached to things that will pass, that won't mean anything tomorrow? But even if they meant, somebody else needs it. And we need to coach them to the point where they have one, somebody else has none, and they say, go ahead, take mine. That's the goal. To teach our children to be altruistic, beginning where? With their siblings.
That's a real difficult.
Yeah. I had 4 brothers, and I know what it is. To share, and to say it's okay if I don't have it, but they do. But then you don't. It's okay. I'll feel the joy of making you happy. Refinement. Progress. This chapter about family is all about our lives. But who is in our family? Now, why does this matter so much? Why did we end up with these people and not the friends in school, the neighbors, the other people elsewhere in China, in India? The matchmaking didn't work, right? We ended up with somebody else. Why? And that's where the core for today. Rooted in past lives of all those who compose it, the terrestrial family is thus formed by different members, inasmuch as in it commonly affections and disaffections, friends and enemies meet again. Oh no. And then we're like, no enemies. But who are the enemies actually? Who are the people that we don't get along well? Are they enemies in fact? Who are they?
They are our dear friends who we mistreated in the past.
Yes. So today we're not getting along because yesterday we cheated on them. We betrayed them. Even as brothers and sisters, we fought for inheritance, for fame. We killed one another for any reason, and now we're friends in the family, and we need to learn it. I remember my grandmother often saying, "You guys were born to love one another." She repeated it. To love one another, to love one another. It's like a broken record. At home, we should not allow discord to run wild. Animosity. Oh, siblings. We spiritists, we understand that must be fixed. So where do we focus?
Forgive.
On forgiveness and understanding, right, Carol?
Right.
We focus on the problem and say, if I have a problem with this person, we need to face it. That's the person I'll pay most attention to. That's the person. Not the one that I get along, the one that I don't. I'm gonna learn to love you. You remember a scientific study that I think it was 2014, we did this interview at Cardiac Radio with a scientist who researched on the power of praying for your spouse. Yeah. He showed that the people who prayed for their spouses in that study, they had a better relationship at the end of the day. They improved than the others who did not. But we can train ourselves and also train our children to pray for that family member they don't get along with yet. Because they were friends once. And then there was a glitch. And now we need to harmonize. It's not impossible, because if it were, God would not bring us into the same family. The impossible cases are still far away. It's for the future. Yeah, because they exist. We still have unfinished businesses from previous lives. We have not got to that list, that point of the list.
We're in training.
Yeah. So when we look at our family members, as difficult as it may be, preparing for our trip, right? We say, God is wise. He knows better. Right? If we matched, it means we can do it. Do you guys remember Tara Brack's book,
Radical.
Radical Acceptance? that doesn't mean we're not going to cry. That doesn't mean we're not going to talk to a therapist, to a friend. We're not going to go into this, oh my gosh, it's so hard, it's so difficult. But it means we're not going to give up. And we're going to try different angles until the last day of our lives, which doesn't exist. Because we don't have an end meanings. Until, when does it end?
When we need to
Yes.
love each other.
There you go. So that's the end. The end is when we are best friends. So we better be best friends now. We don't run away from anybody. Read the book 50 Years Later by Emmanuel. What do you see at the end? They're going to reincarnate. And then you see that the woman who created a problem is going to be in the family of the people she created a problem. She's going to be the daughter of someone and the sister of somebody. She created a mess. You don't run away. You can kill. You can do whatever you like. And then we reincarnate till we face and say, okay, I surrender. Radical acceptance. Let me find the good in you. What do you like in that person?
So difficult for people to understand the dynamics of the family while you're together. If they did, it'd be a hell of a lot easier for them to be able to work on those issues.
But John, talking about that, why is it so hard? Because it's in us.
Yeah.
It's not the other that is hard. It's in us. Because it asks us to work.
We don't have the initiative to put in the effort in the repetition. It's necessary because we don't think it's that important. That's the other. Knowing how important it is will give you that energy to solve it. To get to a particular point.
Yeah.
Where you are comfortable. I keep thinking about my situation. I can see the connection.
Yeah. But sometimes it's hard because we're lazy. That happens, inertia. We don't want to work on that relationship with a brother or sister, a mother, a father, spouse, a daughter, son. And we say, yeah. And like, can you take care of this? It's easier to dream about another life where this doesn't happen. But we can't run away from that. Because we never run away from our inner reality. The thing is identifying where in me I need to change to do better here in this relationship. It's easy to say.
It's easy to see, but hard to do.
But when we accept it, it's happening. Because then we are able to see the good in the person, admiring again the person, feeling that kindness toward the person. So the seek the good that Emmanuel says in the Thought and Life is a good tool for this, right? These friends and friends. Now, he's wrapping up saying, family is an organization of divine origin. So don't throw your family under the bus. Please, because the family is divine. Family is a valuable school for the soul. That's why, as homework, math homework is easy. compared to this homework. Right?
I think if you run away from that responsibility, all you do is create more problems.
More problems. Yes. And he says, in the family, we find the necessary instruments for our own improvement, for the building of a better world. By improving ourselves, we help the world. Some people are like, I want to help the world. Well, help yourself. Improve yourself. But improve yourself means be less selfish. Let's be less selfish, because family is about looking at the other one. What do you need? So when we have a dog at home, it's good for the child to see, it's not only you. We need to take care of the dog. You're hungry? Look at the dog. The dog is hungry. Help the dog. The dog is thirsty. Your siblings. It's not only you. And to create that consciousness, looking at the parents and saying, I'm not going to add more to their load because it's already hard to take care of us. So I'm not going to say, I want 10 gifts in Christmas time. Because there are kids who have no Christmas gifts. And it's not only in Africa, it's here in the United States of America. It's here in this Fairfax County of ours. It's not elsewhere far away. Think of the children of parents who are in prison. It's hard. They don't have a good role model. They don't have structured families. They don't have security. Sometimes they have no food. I know kids who say, we barely eat because the person who takes care of us doesn't fix a meal for us. And they eat cereal. Then I ask, what do you eat? Cereal. I mean, once a day is okay, but cereal for lunch and dinner. It happens around the corner. In places where we don't see, but we need to find. That's why the SSVA has this long-standing relationship with the OAR. The OAR is this organization that helps the people who leave the prison system. And we are revamping our connection. We talked to them recently because the people who leave, they need help to re-enter society, to go back to their families. And we need to be there. We need to find a way to make it easier. We are not the first responders in their case, but we can join in, collaborate with this organization that is helping them firsthand to go back to the job market, to go back to their families, to restructure their self-esteem, to go back to their children. Because very likely they have not received it from their parents either. Slavery in this country, we still resent the effects of slavery in our system, in our society. And it affects first the family. The structure of the family. And we are living in a state that participated big time in slavery. None of us who are seated here can claim that we have no connection with it in the past. We wouldn't end up here in this reincarnation if we didn't have our hands in the mud of slavery somewhat. See, our journey is long to repair the damage. And one of the things that slavery did was destroy families. I remember in mediumistic meetings, how many spirits came here in Baltimore talking about the separation of parents and children. When they were 7, boom, sometimes even younger, they were separated. How many enslaved families were destroyed by those who were enslaving? Recently, at the Kennedy Center, in a field trip with Virginia School, we were seeing a musical that was created by, forgive me because I don't remember the book's name, but it was created by the author of a book who was the great-granddaughter of a slave. And she talks about how all of them were separated at 7 years of age and ended up elsewhere, alone, far away from the parents, beginning anew, and how that pain of family separation went from generation to generation to generation. And now we're still feeling the consequences of it in our system. So tonight we're being invited to build this better world by finding in us ways to improve ourselves by committing ourselves to family. I confess, my family is family oriented, but not enough to teach us to be family oriented. Because for the longest time, I believed that I had to do things on my own. And it took me a while to understand that it doesn't make any sense to live in this life if not forming a family and dedicating ourselves to our family and to the universal family. Because there is this saying, take care of yourself, your career, your life. Yes and no. That and more. Doesn't suffice to do that, to go get your degree, be successful, and then what? And then you live your life for yourself? And who cares about everybody else? And all your earnings is about for you and your loved ones, like anybody else doesn't matter? So let us wrap up. As the Christ is always behind it. He's the one behind the project, right? Life and sex and everything else that we study here. Let us just wrap up as we are coming to a close. If anybody would like to add more comments, if anybody has any question over the internet, I don't know. Yeah, we're not there yet. We're still commenting. Thank you, Sonia. Sorry, Tony. Anybody would like to add anything? Any realization, comment, or question?
May I make a comment?
Yes.
I remember Kardec and Amélie Goudet. They are an example of a missionary couple that didn't have biological children, but that dedicated themselves to humanity. And Kardec, prior to becoming Kardec, had all the titles and recognitions of the time, and he was able to have the humility to give all of that up to embrace humanity. And it's because of his effort and Amélie Gaudet's effort that we are here today.
They risked their reputation. They risked their comfort.
They risk their lives,
their lives,
physical lives.
physical lives. Chico Xavier himself, he was often mistreated. He was often misinterpreted to date. But he, though he didn't have his own family, he took care of the children of the people who were in his family and out of his family. He did. So, the Christ who is governing the earth is asking us to revisit our feelings, especially our feelings towards our family. That doesn't mean we're going to easily change overnight, but we're going to be aware that we cannot give up on those relationships with our parents. Even if they passed away, they're still living, and we still have a relationship with our loved ones who departed. We still have a relationship with them. It's important to keep refining this relationship, to change the way we feel about them, the way we see them, the way we think of them, the way we pray for them. The same for those who are still here. Keep working. I may not understand, I may not be satisfied, but they're not satisfied either. They have such expectations towards us that are not met. And that doesn't mean they're right and we're wrong, or vice versa. It means that we need to get to a common ground. If anything we heard today is close to any of our realities, it's because it's a common theme. Because the other day somebody asked me, they were listening, many people sometimes when they listen to some of these talks or the podcast in Brazil, they're like, did you know about my story, or did they know? No, nobody knows. But it's a common theme in our lives because we're on the same boat, right? Mama said to me the other day, and she's right, we are. We have similar experiences. That's good. The curriculum is the same.
We're not unique, that's for sure.
Yes. But it's good to know that families for regeneration, for progress, because now we go home and say, yay, we have a family. Or I'm going to build a family. Yay, I have problems, homework to do. Homework, right? A lot of homework. Of course.
The mentors here at the SSVA always tell all of us that this is our most precious reincarnation yet, because we have all this treasure that is eternal, spiritism, that is the presence of the very Christ in our lives, and how many people around the world don't have it.
Right.
And we are blessed by God and Master Jesus with the unique opportunity to have a structured center
Oh,
in the English-speaking language that broadcasts, that publishes a magazine that has works for children. This is so incredibly unique. And we have these bonds already with the universal family, and we are conscious of it. So tonight we became even more grateful for this life and for our parents, no matter who they are, whether they are incarnated or not. God bless them, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be.
we wouldn't be here.
So we owe an eternal amount of gratitude to our parents, because they opened this precious door for us. And the mentors tell us that this is the first time that we have all these cards, divine cards, set up in such a beautiful divine man. So every day is a blessing. And we owe it to them and to our grandparents and to our great grandparents and everyone who reincarnated to prepare this for us.
It is true.
Yeah, very much so.
So,
I think about that a lot. That this blessing has been bestowed on us to have this knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's so important to use that knowledge, not opportunity.
yes.
Because only God knows when we're given it again to have that opportunity.
Yes. Since family is about a better world and Jesus is the governor, let us take this time to receive the passes directly from Him. Not that we never do, but let us do it consciously. And we're gonna play the CD, The Encounter with Jesus. And through that, we have an opportunity to visualize this energy medicine that we need, especially to fine tune our disposition to work in our families. Right? Shall we, Tony? Now we're ready. Thank you.
You already know how to conduct yourself. Let us begin this new visualization by taking a good position. Breathe, always slowly. As you breathe, relax. Let go all of your tensions. Allow your body to release you. Spirit. The only way you can do this is by relaxing. Begin relaxing. As you breathe in a tranquil rhythm. Modern life causes us many pressures with a psychosocial nature that make us lose our harmony. Conflicts of various origins that unbalance us. Difficulties, which are in fact existential challenges that discourage us. But now, you will be able to free yourself from all these afflictions by sending to your unconscious and a mental reprogramming everything that is necessary for a healthy and harmonious existence. Visualize a mountain. Visualize a mountain, or a mount, or a range of mountains. Whatever is familiar to you. Visualize it. Now, transfer yourself there. It is nighttime, and nature is festive. And you are at the top of the mountain. Let your eyes drop and reach the horizon. And you can still notice the last rays of sunshine. Note the other mountains are already in darkness. And the sky full of stars. Observe. You are alone. we are rarely alone. And now, you are alone. Alone with God. God fills the universe and is beyond it. At this moment, you can feel him closer. Let him penetrate you. At a distance, you can hear the music made by the wind, the various sounds of nature. And you're all alone on this immense mountain or in the place of your choice. Walk slowly, absorbing the oxygen, nature's purest and most rarefied oxygen. Breathe it in. Let yourself be filled by this blessing that maintains organic life, all life on earth. Breathe in gently. Hold it. Breathe out. Look at the sky once again. You might identify some of the stars if you are familiar with them. But taking your eyes down in a straight line, you can see in front of you, at a long distance, a star that is moving. You can see a moving star. Observe it. It is shining brightly. It is coming towards you, and you are dazzled. As you contemplate it, it is coming closer and closer. And now, it's only yards away. It has the size of a human body, and it has become one. Observe this body, the long robes, the white material, the stoic head, surrounded by hair with combs of a honey-colored light, or of golden color. The beard over the slim chest, mixed with his hair. The strong nose. Observe the lips, full lips, slightly open, and the eyes like two torches. The ample forehead. You know him. It is Jesus. It is Jesus who has come closer to you. Observe him. There he is. He comes a little closer, and you see him in all his glory, irradiating the gentle light. He looks at you. The expression is one of tenderness. There is an air of melancholy, and he emanates much love. He seems to say to you without words, ask me for something. I I have come to help you. Ask me for something. This is a moment, a very important moment in your life. Don't ask for trivial things. Meditate on something with great meaning, something profound, something great. And when I count to 3, ask him for it. Be brief, without justifications, without explanations. Think about what you will request. Think about it now. I will count. 1, 2, 3. Now, ask him. He has already registered your request, and he opens his arms, coming closer to you to embrace you. Embrace him. Embrace him. He melts in your arms and goes into you, disappearing within you. Remember that he said, I am the life. And he is within you now, impregnating your immortal and triumphant spirit. Do not become melancholic anymore. Do not think about possible future disappointments. Do not allow yourself to hold unjustified, tormenting ideas. He is within you. So say this: I am life, and a triumphant life. Say it again, and once again. Say, I am happiness in life. Repeat it. I am fulfilled, and so I shall remain. Look at yourself. You are irradiating his light. Again, look at yourself. You are irradiating his light. Breathe it. Hold it. Breathe out. Say to yourself, nothing of a disturbing nature deserves my attention. When I return to the objective reality, I will conserve the presence of Jesus within me, and I shall be healthy, happy. Even when I'm faced with the struggles of evolution, in view of the challenges, I will remain healthy as I am now. Project this onto your conscious mind and reprogram your life. You deserve to be happy. And you are happy. Now it is time to come back. Come back to the place where your body is. Come back. Take it totally. Feel its organic sensations. Keeping your eyes closed. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Listen to the music in the air. Hear it. Open your eyes. Feel the sensation of well-being that you retain. Gently move. If you want to, you can yawn. You can stretch. For whatever there might be, never lose touch with the sensation of well-being you have brought back from the mountain or from the mountain where you were. Hold on to this sensation and repeat the experience periodically, helping Jesus to answer your request. Through a positive attitude, an idealistic mind, a pacified heart, and thanks to the inner change for the better that you will make in this very existence so that you can be happy.
Dear God and dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you for the honor of this moment of therapy for our minds and bodies. We visualize your presence in our very homes, blessing every corner of it, blessing every family member and relative. And we thank you for the opportunity you have granted us to regenerate ourselves every day. We dream of the day in which we will overcome our current limitations. And we can already visualize the day we are completely reconciled with ourselves and everyone in our lives. We rejoice with that real perspective. May we cherish this work that you're inviting us to do every day. May we feel your presence coaching us all the time. Count on us to partake in this co-creation of our planet. With much to be grateful, we ask for your permission to conclude this study tonight, and so be it. Thank you, friends. Thank you.